Hello and welcome to Property Question Time. My name's Stephen Galpin and this is the programme where you can have your property related questions answered by our team of experts. Now, joining me today are John Howard, property developer, author, public speaker, mentor and investor.
Goodness me, that's a mouthful, isn't it?
Isn't it just? I wonder where you get the time, John.
Well, ask a busy person.
Okay. Now, sitting next to you is Paul Mahoney, CEO of Nova Financial Group, public speaker, author and mentor to a number of investors, I think. We're also joined by Angela Worral, direct by link to Portugal. Angela, hello. Right, John, I'm going to start with you. Your first question is this.
Yes.
Can the panel please explain how developer NHBC guarantees work? I am now outside of my 2-year initial developer guarantee and every fault I report now seems to not be covered. Now, we've had this one in a lot. So.
We have, and it's close to my heart having to use these warranty companies. The first thing I would say, there's an awful lot of warranty companies about now. In the old days, there used to be probably 2 or 3. Now there's a huge choice for developers to go to, so they're much more competitive. However, the big ones, the well-known ones, which we can't say on the show for obvious reasons, they're very expensive compared to some of the others. They're a cover, and it's an insurance cover at the end of the day, is what we're talking about here. For the 8 years normally between the 2 years, so the developer covers the first 2 years, and then after that, the next 8 years, or 10 years depending, are covered. So you're covered for 10 years in total. Are covered by an insurance-backed policy. It's what it is. It's an insurance-backed policy. Now, during the process of the development, they will check everything with their surveyors as you go through that process. So as the property is built or converted, they will check at every stage to make sure they're happy and they're willing to insure it at the end for the 10 years. So what you do find, like any insurance policy, read the small print, because there will be things that are not covered.
But you're not going to get a choice, are you, John? A developer will present you with the warranty, won't he?
No, you will be presented with a warranty, and of course building societies have also accepted that warranty, because even on a conversion, in the old days when we converted flats, we never ever bothered with any sort of warranty. Now with conversions you get a 6-year warranty. We never used to bother, we never used to have to do it. Now most building sites require it, which is probably not a bad thing. And that's why all these smaller insurance companies have come up now that weren't about, because they're more competitive, especially on smaller sites, than they are the big boys. So anyone doing a small conversion, if you haven't got a warranty organised, get it organised. If you do it retrospectively at the end, it's more expensive. So please, 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 that's one of the main things you have to do these days.
Do you think a lot of these problems come because people just don't quite get the meaning of a sort of building fault as opposed to an occurring fault, like a cracked wall or this?
Yeah, look, the good point there, with that's specific to that question. They said the 2 years has passed. The 2 years covers minor defects. A building warranty only covers major defects. Yeah. So your tiles falling off the wall, that's not going to be covered by your building warranty. It only covers the structure of the building, design defects, water ingress, things like that, major defects in the building. So perhaps they've just misunderstood what they were covered there.
And John, actually, yeah, it's not that, and when you work it out, although it's painful for us to have to pay it, it isn't actually that expensive when you look at it for the developer.
Yeah,
really.
And John mentioned you do need to be careful with the policy. You mentioned about buyer may not have a choice, but they do have a choice, because when they buy the property, they will be told what warranty is going to be in place. And there are some smaller insurers out there now, but one of them went bust last year. And that meant a lot of people were left uncovered. So you do need to be careful. Another thing to be careful of is the smaller insurers aren't on the panel for a lot of lenders. Yeah. So the biggest is on every panel. The bigger are on most panels, and the smaller ones are on a very few lenders' panels. So that's another thing you need to be careful, because it can affect the mortgageability of the property as well.
Paul makes a really, really good point there that I'm really annoyed about, because I missed making that point myself. And that is some of the smaller insurers. Be careful. Ask them what panel they are on. If they're on the main building society panels, great. If they're not, don't use them.
Yeah. Well, John, it may come as a surprise, but not all of us are perfect, so you'll be excused.
I strive to be.
There's another point there as well. That something that was quite prevalent not so long ago was architect certificates.
Yes.
And again, a lot of those aren't accepted, especially for new builds, by lenders.
No.
So that's another thing to be careful of.
A lot of people on those, they used to use them on when they're building their own home, and the architect would try and get involved in all aspects of the construction. If you've got a good architect, let him do the drawings or her do the drawings, then say to them, thank you very much for doing the drawings. If we need you in the future to redraw anything, we'll be in touch. Do not let them oversee the project.
I don't know about you, John, but I've never actually heard of a building warranty paying out. You know, they are literally almost there. Have you ever heard of one paying out?
On occasions, with a big problem, to be fair. Yeah,
what I've seen, it's mainly to tick the box for what the lender wants.
I think we might get in trouble if we carry on with this one. So I think, Paul, we're going to move on to your question. Right. Paul, this is going to be right up your street as somebody who advises on strategy and development of portfolios. If I start out with just a modest amount of equity, do the panel believe that it would be possible to build a buy-to-let portfolio within around, say, 10 years to enable me to then sell the portfolio and retire with a reasonable capital gain?
Okay, it's a good question, a fairly common one. I do believe that that's very achievable. I think that the main reason it's achievable specifically in property versus other options is due to the what leverage does to your funds applied. So, for example, they mentioned about having a limited amount of equity. You know, if you take, you know, as an example, a £50,000 deposit and buy a £200,000 property, a relatively average return on the asset value gives you quite a strong return on the funds applied. You know, a 5 to 10% net yield is very achievable. And then if you're getting 5% growth on the asset value, well, that's 20% on your cash. That puts you at 25 to 30% a year. And that's by not setting the world on fire at all. You know, I think everyone would agree that 25 to 30% a year on funds applied, that's a good return. And that's a fairly average buy-to-let. So, you know, over a period of, 5, 10 years, by remortgaging to release equity and reinvesting and perhaps adding some extra funds as well, it actually is quite achievable to build a portfolio in that way, because it can also have a snowball effect. You know, you start with one, you remortgage and reinvest, and you have two. And then over another, let's say 2 to 4 year period, you're able to do that again. And then you've got 4, and then 8, and so on and so forth. So it's not a get-rich-quick scheme by any stretch of the imagination. It's a slow burn, but you know, if you're investing in the right properties in the right areas, then by all means, that is a way of building a portfolio and certainly significantly improving your financial position.
Okay, Paul, given the vagrancies of the market at any one time, do you think 10 years is a reasonable time span to consolidate it all?
I think for an individual property purchase as an investment, you should be looking at it as a sort of 7 to 12 year investment at least.
Okay.
Because of the way the market is cyclical, you know, usually longer, but you shouldn't be looking at it as any shorter than that. That's the one property. But you know, given the way that mortgages are structured, and generally that you're getting a 2 or 3 year initial period, assuming that the market's doing okay, or more specifically your properties are doing okay, ideally it'd be great to be able to remortgage, pull some equity out every 2 or 3 years to be able to go again. Yep. Now that might not be the case every time, but hopefully it's the case most times, and that's what allows you to build the portfolio.
Okay, thank you. Right, we're going to skip over now for some sunshine to Portugal, and Angela's question is this. I'm considering purchasing a small villa-type property in a coastal area of Portugal. I have in the past owned property in Spain, which was not a happy experience. After purchasing the property, I found that there were debts left by the previous owner, which effectively stayed with the property, not the owner. In the end, I had to pay off these debts. Is it the same in Portugal? And if it is, are there any measures that I can take to make sure the same doesn't happen again? Angela.
When you're buying a property in Portugal, yes, the debt, it's the same. If the mortgage is with a house, not with the person who owns the house. And what you need to do to make sure this doesn't happen, it's a straightforward process. You get a good lawyer. If you get a good lawyer, the lawyer will do the research This is one of the main things that he searches. Any debt on the house will show up. He doesn't have to do a major job to find it. It's always there. It's plain to see. And then it will be made that the vendor, the person selling the house, pays the debt before you do any signing of any deeds or anything. And so, yes, it is something that you need to make sure is done properly. And like I say, go with a good agent and a good lawyer, and you won't have any problems with anything like that.
Okay, Angela, thank you very much indeed for your answer. That was great. That's all we have time for in this part of the programme, so join us again after the break.
Hi, I'm John Howard and I'm known as the property expert. The reason for this is over the last 40 odd years, I've bought and sold over 3,500 properties and I'm still going. I'm delighted to pass on my vast experience and knowledge to you through my property seminars that are taking place across the UK this year. To know more, please go to johnhowardpropertyexpert.co.uk.
If you're dreaming of a home in Portugal, look no further. Ideal Homes is here to help. We have over 10 years' experience finding people their dream homes in the Algarve, Lisbon and across the rest of the country. We pride ourselves in offering a friendly, personal service. And if you'd like your dream of a home in Portugal to become reality, then contact us now and see how easy the process can be. Call 0800 133 7644 or visit idealhomesinternational.co.uk.
Property is a great investment option, but it's one of the largest purchases that you'll ever make. As individuals, we're all limited by our resources, and regardless of our experience, knowledge or time, we can achieve much more with the help of a qualified team and extra resources being available. Nova Financial specialise in assisting clients to achieve financial freedom through property investment. With over 100 years of experience, we shape your family's future. To invest in property with absolute confidence, call us on 0203 8600 or visit nova.financial. Meet the Author is a brand new mini-series involving leading experts in the property industry, including mentors, developers, property lawyers and other industry experts who share insightful stories about their journey and their books. Each book is compiled by authors with years of valuable experience, tips and observations, providing you with new knowledge about the property industry. To find out more, visit the website property-tv.co.uk/library.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time. I'm Stephen Galpin and with me are John Howard, Paul Mahoney and Angela Worral in Portugal. John, your second question. I'm hoping to become a property developer and have attended a number of events providing guidance and advice.
Excellent.
I now understand how and where to look for potential projects. I've also taken on board the need to have good professional teams around me. Yes, well,
Makes a change.
Music to our ears,
Yep.
isn't it? Yeah. The one thing that worries me is if the project overruns because of unforeseen difficulties or perhaps a change in the market conditions, how do I protect myself against this situation damaging me?
Okay, well, I've got bad news for this person.
He's on his own.
No, it will definitely overrun
Right.
in terms of time, and it will probably overrun in terms of cost. That's why you have a contingency sum. If it's a new build, I would have 5 to 7% contingency. If it's conversion, I would have 10%. If it's a listed building, I would have a 15% contingency. That's what we work on. So if something goes wrong, as long as it's within that contingency sum, you're okay. Make sure you have the cash for the contingency sum because the bank may not let you have any more money. So you need to have the cash to cover that because the builder won't finish the job if you can't pay them.
If you haven't got the money.
So you just need to be careful. You know, don't kid yourself. There won't be an overrun. There will be on time. I'm quoted as saying, I've never got it. I've got one right, but never both. and that's in 40 years. That makes me a bad developer, or it makes me human. I don't know which. it's very hard to come in on time and on budget. Really hard.
I think on question time, we've had so many questions around this sort of subject, and time is the one thing people overlook every time.
Without question, you know, time is so valuable, and it just slows you down from getting on to the next deal, getting the properties for sale. Because remember, you can put your property on the market whenever you want, but you know what? No one will buy that property until they can move into it. So you can kid yourself by you putting it on early. Don't put your property on the market early. Unless it's a new build and you're setting off plan, don't do it, because no one can move in. You want that property to look as best it can when it goes on the market.
Okay.
So wait and be patient.
Paul, anything on the funding side of that you can do to protect?
Well, look, there's as John kind of said, you know, there's very little you can do to protect against the market moving against you. And that's obviously the biggest risk with property development, I suppose.
And that's the problem when you take too long to do something. If the market's going the wrong way, that's another issue.
Yeah, and probably the finance is one of the biggest risks associated with that. It's not just about the value changing, it's about the cost of the debt.
Absolutely.
You know, if the project takes you
6
twice
months
the amount of
longer,
time, or however much longer, there's usually a big cost of debt there as well. So that needs to be factored into the contingencies that John's talking about.
So if you go to your lender, presuming it's a sort of mainstream commercial lender,
we hope they do.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Will that commercial lender join you in sort of some kind of sympathy over the market conditions changing?
Some won't. You know, some will give you a fixed period and that's it. And they'll recall the debt, you know, on that point. I'd say most would generally provide some flexibility, but
they'll charge you more for it.
Yeah.
Once you go over you say it's a fixed year, if you say, the advice is simple. If you think it's going to take a year, tell the bank it's going to take 18 months. Give yourself some leeway. Why don't show off to the bank and tell them you're going to do it in 9 months. You know, give yourself some leeway. The whole point is taking pressure off yourself. You know, under promise and over deliver every time.
Yeah. The margin thing is obviously key as well. You know, I think a lot of people rush into property development as an easy way to make money without considering, you know, the time value, the value of their time as well. Yeah. You know, they obviously need to be making enough money from it for it to be worth the 18 months of their time.
Okay. Got it. Paul, your question, something that's cropping up quite a lot lately, and that's the subject of equity release. Can the panel advise me on the merits or otherwise of equity release schemes? I'm about to retire and such a scheme would seem to pay off my small outstanding mortgage and also provide a cash boost to my savings. I just have a feeling there must be a catch.
Yes, there is a catch, because effectively what you're doing is drawing down on the equity of your home to live off. So obviously that's not an ideal scenario in comparison to living off your investment portfolio, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because you've got your home, and in some cases, by the time you pass away, there's no value left.
But that's well, to be fair, Paul, that's okay if you live on, you know, if you haven't got any
particular
relatives,
type of person,
or you don't like your children.
Yeah,
it's perfect. Yeah. So you want to spend it. So, but you know,
I don't think Paul's advisory team will be mentioned.
No, probably not. But there's a number of forms of it, because you can take some equity out, you can keep some equity, or you can do a life tenancy, can't you? There's another one where you actually sell the property and then you live there free of charge for the rest of your life. So there's
my view on it would be, why would you, let's put the phrase another way. If you had the cash in the bank, why would you spend that cash to live when you could invest that cash and live off the returns of your investment? Now, for this same person, they could do that. Rather than drawing down the equity of their home to live, they could take some of that equity and buy a couple of buy-to-lets and live off the income from the buy-to-lets rather than spending what they have.
Okay, well that would prompt another question though, Paul. Do you think somebody, as this questioner is coming up to retirement age, would you really suggest that perhaps for the first time they go in business in the property market?
With the right guidance, it can be quite straightforward. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say they just take the money, buy, you know, throw a dart at a dartboard, buy anything and hope it works out. With the right guidance, it can be relatively passive. And obviously they need to go about it in the right way. But, you know, so what I thought you were going to ask is should this person moving into retirement take on some debt? And my answer to that is in a lot of cases, yes. Because investment debt is good debt. Now, if you've got a limited amount of resources and you can use somebody else's money to make a lot more money than the cost of that debt, then yes, you should do it. And some buy-to-let lenders will lend to you up to the age of 100. So you're
They're
not, most
optimistic.
people aren't too old.
I think one of the concerns that I'm sort of reading between the lines here is that there's been a lot of publicity recently in so much as the way the interest is calculated, because it seems to me you retain ownership of your home, you take this mortgage out without repayment effectively, and then that interest is just charged to your account and settled as and when you either go into care or you pass away. But I think there's been some questions around about how that interest is calculated and the way it's compounded, I think.
Well, yeah, it's somewhat comparable to an annuity. You know, when you're drawing down on your pension at a fairly rubbish rate. You know, annuities are very limiting, and I'd say the same would apply to the equity release programs moving into retirement.
Okay, good. Okay, well that seems a splendid answer, thank you very much. So we'll now go over to Angela for her final question. If I want to reserve an apartment in a development that is yet to be constructed, what are the normal conditions of payment that would apply from the start through the construction process, right through to completion? Is there any specific or cautionary advice the panel would give regarding that kind of purchase?
In my opinion, if you want to buy a property and make money, especially if you want an investment, the best way to buy is off plan, because that's where you make your money. You're buying a property that's not even started to be built, and by the time you're paying for it, it's built, so it's always going to be worth a lot more money. Yes, there is always an element of risk in this kind of buying, and that's why, again, you need to go with someone that knows the developer, meet the developer, know that it's like there's certain developers that use their own money, they don't use the banks. These are always going to fulfill what they're telling you they're going to, and you just need to, like I say, be with a good agent that you can trust, that will make sure that you're going down the right route. In Portugal, it's very much like much safer than it is in some places. This is due to the buying process. So should you see an off-plan development that you want to buy, it's going to be ready in 2 years' time, for instance. The buying process is very much geared around looking after you as well as the developer. So you would put down a reservation fee of 6,000 on the chosen unit. This is a refundable €6,000, and the lawyer will then do all the searches, which is not very often a right lot when it comes to a new development, because all the paperwork has to be there for them to start developing it. What they do then is, once everything's okay, you go ahead with the purchasing of that property. Should there's something come up that the lawyer thinks is not right, and he will either look further into it, or he will advise you not to go down that route, which is very rare that happens on this kind of development. And then you would get your €6,000 returned to you. That's always just kept in an escrow account, doesn't go to the developer or anything. So once you've decided, yeah, this is what I want to purchase, then you will be asked to put, usually with a development it is 20%. There can be different payment plans. It can work differently, but a lot are 20% down, and once you've put that 20% down, you will sign a contract, which we call a promissory contract, to say that you want to go ahead with the purchase. Now at this stage, if you back out, although remember you're in a position, you've had everything done, you're quite confident that this is what you want to purchase, but should you back out, you would lose your 20%. The 6,000 you've already paid is part of this 20% now, so that's all at this stage you've put down. If the developer decides that it's not going to go ahead, or there's something not right, he would have to give you the 20% back plus another 20%. Now this is done before anything else. So if anything happened with the developer, for some reason he wasn't fulfilling what he's told you he's going to, then the government would make him pay you back before anything else is covered. So the bank would repossess it, but they would give you your money back, so you would get double your 20% back. So it's quite safeguarded. I'm not saying that'll be the week after or anything like that, but it is safeguarded and your money is safe. Some developers also, you can get a bank guarantee from them because the banks trust them so much. If you're having a mortgage, you would apply for them for your mortgage. So you'd get pre-approved of your mortgage, so you'd know that you can have one. And as long as nothing has changed in your circumstances, you then apply for the mortgage 3 months before completion, because a mortgage application only lasts for 3 months. So 2 to 3 months before completion, you apply for your mortgage, and your mortgage is all paid on the deed. Obviously, you've already paid your 20%. So it's quite straightforward and an easy process, and it is a safety. There's a lot of safety checks in there. When for certain stages of the build, they have to stop build while an architect from the government, an engineer from the government come, somebody who looks at the habitation of it, and they check the plans and they make sure everything's okay before they go ahead and carry on with the build. So it is quite a safe thing to do, and like I say, it is a good way to buy a property because you're going to make money. For instance, you could buy something, and this has been known last year, a guy bought something for 360,000 when it was first released. He then sold it 18 months later with a complete product for 660, because a lot of people want a complete product sometimes. So, it's a good thing to do.
Right, well, thank you very much, Angela. That's a great answer, most helpful. So all that remains is to say thank you very much to our panel of experts, John Howard.
Pleasure, Stephen.
Paul Mahoney.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Paul. And Angela Worral in Portugal. Join us again next time on Property Question Time.
If you're dreaming of a home in Portugal, look no further. Ideal Homes is here to help. We have over 10 years' experience finding people their dream homes in the Algarve, Lisbon, and across the rest of the country. We pride ourselves in offering a friendly, personal service. And if you'd like your dream of a home in Portugal to become reality, then contact us now and see how easy the process can be. Call 0800 133 7644 or visit idealhomesinternational.co.uk.
Property is a great investment option, but it's one of the largest purchases that you'll ever make. As individuals, we're all limited by our resources, and regardless of our experience, knowledge or time, we can achieve much more with the help of a qualified team and extra resources being available. Nova Financial specialise in assisting clients to achieve financial freedom through property investment. With over 100 years of experience, we shape your family's future. To invest in property with absolute confidence, call us on 0203 8600 or visit nova.financial.
My name is John Howard, and I've been investing and developing properties for over 40 years. In that time, I've been very successful, but of course I've always made the odd mistake as well. In my book, I explain how to be successful and what to do should something go wrong. I've survived 3 property recessions. I can help you do the same. My book is available online. Please go to johnhowardpropertyexpert.co.uk.
Meet the Author is a brand new mini-series involving leading experts in the property industry, including mentors, developers, property lawyers, and other industry experts who share insightful stories about their journey and their books. Each book is compiled by authors with years of valuable experience, tips, and observations, providing you with new knowledge about the property industry. To find out more, visit the website property-tv.co.uk/library.
Hello and welcome to Property TV. I'm Stephen Galpin, host of Property Question Time. We've completed the filming of Series 1, over 260 successful episodes. We're now about to film Series 2. The difference? Well, we're going to be filming in our new studio adjacent to the Canary Wharf development. Keep those questions coming in to us, keep our panellists, our experts busy, and we hope you enjoy the new series as much as you did the last one.